Hey guys, I'm going to give you a heads up. I've been having some network issues with the Chromebook, so if you lose me, I'll switch over to my iPad, but it works better this way. So just, you know, I don't know what's going on, but my husband's on a big meeting too, so that might be the issue. So hopefully it'll be okay. I hope everyone's well.
Yeah, I agree. Hello, everyone.
Good
Hello.
morning. Good morning, everyone. It's still morning. I've got 11:59.
Yes. Yes. Can I ask the other board members, are you able to use the new Gmail? Are you into the new Gmail? Dick and Kathy?
I am into the new Gmail, and actually, you know, it's I was a little delinquent in getting my account started. I set it up today. It's set up very easily, and you know, I have a list of emails that I reviewed, so it is working.
I'm not sure I'm doing it right, but I am getting emails. So I just
How do you access the Gmail? How do you find, because
mine just pops up. So
Yeah.
I haven't done anything.
And for me, I you know, I operate.
Oh, Dick, you're muted.
I've worked with Gmail accounts in the past, so all I needed to do was add another account, and I used the email address that was provided by the district, and then they gave me a password, which just consisted of board, my initials, and the number 1 as my password, and it was fairly easy to set up.
okay, I think I'm missing a password. So who did you contact? Who did you contact to get that password?
Oh, I don't remember who gave it to me.
Jessica Dupree, maybe?
Yeah,
Okay.
possibly. Otherwise, try the password, board, your initials, 2 initials, and
So much for reading expressions, though.
yeah, right.
You're going to have to be very animated, all of you, with your eyes, you know, like and nods and shakes.
Well, okay, I'm gonna get the meeting started right away. It's 12 o'clock. It doesn't look like Meredith and Liz are on yet. We'll let them join. So we'll start our meeting with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're getting the hang of that on the virtual meetings. Okay, now I'll ask the secretary to take roll.
All right. Lisa Johnston,
Here,
Dave Nichols,
Here.
Dick Nitch,
Here.
Meredith Sauer, Catherine Shalhoub,
here,
Elizabeth Williams, Kathy Willis.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll need to take action on the additions or corrections. If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the minutes are carried. Then we'll move on to communications, and that is, you all, I believe, received some communications from citizens, they may be parents, regarding the graduation ceremony and their objection to the ceremony that's planned. They want us to have an in-person ceremony. I received a list of names, 360 names were on the list, and I believe I forwarded it all to you. And I'm just going to open it up for discussion regarding that. What you may have gotten more information than I did. I did get a number of emails and other contacts, and you may have gotten more. And if you want to discuss that, now would be the time. And then I would ask Mark perhaps to explain, just in case there are questions regarding the decision. But otherwise, I'll just leave it open to the members right now.
I think it's a shame that it was canceled. You should have let whatever students and parents that wanted to come. It would be their decision. These seniors deserve some recognition from all their work in high school.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Anyone else want to discuss the communications we received in regard to graduation?
I know that there's always 2020, it's it's what seemed like a severe situation with our pandemic, it's at the time that kids were finishing the school year, now seems, it's but a speck, it's in regard to what's going on now. It's in hindsight, maybe we could have more safely held a graduation ceremony in the past. I have apprehensions, that we can safely do it, it's as the numbers continue to escalate in Manitowoc County. I really have some apprehensions, in spite of the fact that I'm sensitive, to where the parents are coming from.
Thank you, Richard. Anybody else?
I'd agree with you, Dick. Up until last week, I was still holding out hope that we maybe could have done something, but the numbers have just gone in the wrong direction. Not only look at the county, look at the whole entire state of Wisconsin. We've added about 3,500 cases just within the past week. So this is going in the wrong direction. I just do not believe it's in our best interest or our families or the students to proceed with any type of an in-person graduation ceremony. That's my thought.
I'd also like to add that I think that our committee, including Mr. Tennis, has done a great job, from my understanding, of trying to make this as special as possible for our seniors, given the situation. So, people, I would hope, would understand that we're not the bars, we're not private entities that can make different decisions, that we're trying to do what's best for our kids and the community. So it was a really hard decision to make, I'm sure. But I have to stand by that committee. I think that they're still getting a graduation. They're going to have one that's even more historical than ever. It's certainly not the same and won't have quite the same pomp and circumstance with the, all at one time with all the colors, but it is a special graduation, and I hope that people will see it as that. So
I also think that we need to send a message to people, that bring up the subject, that it is not a unilateral decision that's made by our superintendent. You know, that there was a committee that studied it. You know, so we're looking at the CDC recommendations, our health department recommendations, DPI recommendations. You know, we're not doing this in isolation, and it's not a unilateral decision. Some people have expressed that, you know, it's Mr. Holzman's decision, you know, that we not have an in-person graduation. So I think as board members, you know, we can help spread that message that it was well studied and thought through, not unilaterally.
I agree.
I have a communicated one that's, you know, gotten in contact with me. Obviously, I can't get that message out to all of the people that might have signed those papers. So, you know, I don't know if you have any other ideas or whatever. It sounds as though the board in general is comfortable with the decisions that have been made, the graduation ceremony that's going to go forward. And I would just point out that it's likely that we may negative feedback on that. We'll continue to get that. Just so we're aware. I see that Liz has joined. I'll give her a chance if she can. I don't know if she's been able to hear the conversation up to this point. Liz? Well, let's see here.
Liz is on mute.
Yeah. Liz, if you could, if you have a method there of turning on your voice control. So I can't do that for you. Well, hearing nothing else, the ceremony will take place on July 18th. It's planned to be a drive-in type of ceremony up at Lincoln High School. They go in the circle. Having talked with Superintendent Holtzman and Principal Tennis, they have all the plans set up. They're aware of they're aware that there may be some issues that might arise that they're prepared for. Certainly the traffic was an issue that I brought up, but I believe they've taken care of that with the police department. And hopefully that those that object to the ceremony, because I suspect, as I said, many of them will likely not change their opinion, and I respect that. But hopefully that the ceremony will continue and it'll be something positive for all of those who choose to participate in it. And those who choose not to have, you know, can make that choice and leave it go. So
one of the problems that I have with all of this is they're not giving any indication of hospitalizations or deaths. They're just saying how many new cases there are. Well, they've been doing a bunch of testing and they're finding the people that have it or have had it, and they're counting them as an increase.
okay, thank you, Catherine. And I've said this before, I'm a member of the Board of Health, and I'm confident in the numbers that are being given to the public. I'm confident in the methods that our emergency services director has presented information. So as a member of that board, I'm getting information from health professionals, and I'm confident. While I don't like some of the information that's being provided, I think that for the most part it's accurate and it's fairly presented to the public. So, okay, then we'll move on from that. We'll go to our committee reports. We have our Finance and Budget Committee. Richard, you've got that?
Yes, I do. Our Finance and Budget Committee met on June 23rd, and the meeting was called to order at 11:16. The first item of business was the bus transportation contract. An increase in the transportation contract with Brent Bus in the amount of $29,472 was presented to the committee by Sean. That amount represented a 2% increase, which was described to be consistent with general contract increases. Dave Nichols pointed out that the increase is higher than the current CPI, but did express support for the proposed increase. The cost of special education transportation and the transportation for extracurricular activities was not part of that overall contract figure. And I believe that you did receive some background information in board book related to that. The Finance and Budget Committee voted to recommend that the school board accept the proposed transportation contract. I do want to point out that when Sean and the superintendent met to discuss the contract, they were discussing the 2019 to 2024 contract. And the contract that they're discussing now is the 2020 to 2025 contract. So, but the financial information, it impacts the 2020-21 school year only. So the finance and again, the Finance and Budget Committee did vote to approve the transportation contract and send it to the board. The second item of business dealt with a parcel of land that the school district owns on Columbus Street. Sean had a conversation with a resident of Manitowoc in regard to a parcel of land that's located on the corner of Columbus Street and 8th Street. The committee was informed that this same person had expressed interest in this parcel of land in the past, and no action was taken at that time. It was noted that past discussions included possible safety concerns if a building were placed on that parcel of land. The committee concluded that the district has no incentive to sell the parcel of land. The inquiry did not constitute an offer to buy, so no action needed to be taken by our committee. And the inquiry was noted, acknowledged, and put on file by Sean. The next item of business was a 2020-21 preliminary budget. Sean presented projected expenses for the 2020-21 school year, but the revenue information he had was still from the 2019-20 school year. He's expecting or did expect updated revenue numbers as of July 1st. The discussion was strictly informational, and an updated projected budget will be discussed at our next Finance and Budget Committee meeting later this month. Sean did, in the next item of business, Sean did share 3 2020-21 possible budget scenarios, none of them positive. Sean presented 3 different scenarios that could impact the 2020-21 Manitowoc Public School District budget. The 3 scenarios included: 1, a per member decrease on the tax levy; 2, a 5% reduction in state equalized aid; and 3, the removal of the pupil services categorical aid. Each of these 3 scenarios would have a negative impact on the Manitowoc Public School District revenue source. Sean estimates that the impact could be anywhere from $900,000 to $3,779,000, depending on what the state presents. Dave, was there anything else that you had to offer in regard to the meeting? The meeting was adjourned at 11:57.
Thank you, Richard. Just in regard to the budget and the state aids, some preliminary numbers did come out this past week, but they are preliminary and are subject to change. They do include an increase for our district, but again, they're preliminary. And the state will certainly be looking at it differently, I suspect, when we get around to September, October, and perhaps even after the election. But otherwise, are there any questions on the report that Richard gave? I would ask for a motion and a second to approve those minutes.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from the Budget and Finance Committee.
Could I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We will then move on to the report of the superintendent, and I believe the personnel report is the first thing on the item on the agenda.
Great, thank you. In board book, you should have access to the personnel report. There were no addendums this time, so it is just the one document that's in board book. I don't think there's anything real unique, unusual on this personnel report, but certainly, are there any questions?
I was wondering, it's Joyce, are you getting candidates for the school psych position? And I was also wondering about the cross-categorical. Is that going to need to be a provisionally licensed position?
All right, so I know for the, let me make sure I understand your question, Dick. For the school psych, now that was just posted late last week. I know we have, it definitely is a hard position to fill. We know
Right.
that. We do have one applicant on WeCan that looks like a potential candidate to interview at least. But again, just one candidate right now. And then let me make sure I understand the second part of that question, Dick.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering, about the cross-categorical position that you're filling. It's are you getting qualified candidates for that position, or are we going to have to fill that with a provisionally certified person?
Okay. Yeah, I know, I believe we have some candidates. Yes, there's, there is a potential that we may have to, again, we'd need to feel comfortable with that candidate.
Right.
And possibly do an emergency or a license with stipulations, they call it right now.
Right.
Yeah. And let me go back, and as I was just checking on WeCan real quick, we actually have we just got another, like in the last 24 hours, we just got another applicant for the school psych. I haven't looked at it yet, but looks like there are 2 of them now.
Great.
So,
I know that, it's in the past, if I needed a school psych, I wanted to get that posted by February or March, because it is a difficult position to fill. So I think it's wonderful that you have 2 candidates, at this point in time.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Joyce. Any other questions? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion and a second to approve the personnel report.
I move we approve the personnel report.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the personnel report is approved. We then would move on to the return to school update. And I'll turn that over to Superintendent Holtzman.
Okay, thank you very much. Reason why great communication always happens when I'm muted. We've had a lot of conversations over the last week and a half or so, talking a little bit about returning to school in the fall. So what I'd like to do is just share my screen. We're going to talk a little bit today about the surveys that we did with our staff and our parents. We're going to share a timeline, and this is, again, just a draft timeline of some of the things that we'd like to do in the month of July, talking about returning to school. Definitely answer questions and have conversations about all of that. We're going to share, again, walk through a document that we have for our staff employees that we would use during our return to school, which just talks about what happens to employees if they happen to be sick, or what kind of accommodations we would make, and we would share that. What I'd like to do is start with a document that, let's find where we are here, which kind of outlines our timeline. So that one was recently uploaded, and I need to just redo my piece here. It's called Leading and Learning. Now, what I'm going to do is share my screen so that we're all looking at the same documents. Just bear with me 1 second here. And that should be this one. Okay. So just to kind of talk you through what some of our ideas and thoughts are in regards to the process for planning. And I shared with all the board members, hopefully you had an opportunity to take a peek at it, but we'll talk about it later, a very short survey. A large Google Meet that people could communicate by chat. And we would basically not be conversating between people, because if you have hundreds of people online at the same time, we just can't manage that. But what we would do is explain the survey, talk about what data and information we have, share some of the timelines that we have and the goals that we have, and then have our staff comply the questions that we're going to ask people to present in that topic. Again, just another opportunity for our staff and for our parents to do this. This is a relatively new phenomenon that we're putting together, so we're going to try 2 sessions on this Thursday with our staff, assuming the board is comfortable with our moving forward here with this model. And again, the purpose is to just get more information and have more opportunities for feedback. We're not in a position we're going to have an open forum where lots of people come to one location. So we're going to try to do this in a virtual model that would allow people to communicate 2 different times, one during the day and one in the evening. We'll share all that information out after our meetings today, but we want to make sure that our board had an opportunity to hear this thoughts and ideas before that. We then have a board meeting next week, Tuesday. So we would have some opportunity to share with the board just some of the feedback that we got from our staff and from our parents, and to continue to talk about the models that we're developing. That week, then July 15th and 16th, we take all of that information. We talk our director team, some building team leaders, our nursing staff, and start to put together a skeleton of a model that we might be utilizing to present to another group the following week. And so we have some preliminary ideas, but we really want to continue to take more information from people. And then again, use that information to put a skeleton together, putting basically some parameters of what are some things that we say we have to have, and what are the things that we say we're not going to have. So an example might be, we want to manage a budget, right? So we can't say, hey, a committee comes back to us and says, in order for us to come back face to face, we have to add 20 teachers. Well, we say, well, HR says, well, I don't know that we can find 20 teachers. And the business manager says, I don't know if we can pay for 20 more teachers. We have to come up with something different than that. So those are what our goal is for the next week, few days. Then we bring back that information to a group of teachers, MEA members, teacher leaders, building leaders, and talk a little bit about that. We'd share that information again on the 21st with parents and guardians, and again, an open forum kind of a session where people would have opportunities to hear about a preferred model along with the board, give us some feedback. We'd have a couple of listening sessions that you see in there for our staff members and for parents, and then we try to finalize that with our goal of bringing that information together to the board for the last board meeting in July for feedback. And likely, we'll talk as the board meetings go. Does the board want to approve a plan or just kind of give us a thumbs up like this is the direction we want you to go? And there's probably multiple ways to do that, but those are the conversations we're talking about. That would be on the 28th. And then assuming the board is comfortable with where we're going, we would have a communication plan starting July 29th and information for all staff members on August 4th, and again, information session for our parents and guardians on August 5th. I would tell you that this is a very aggressive timeline, meaning that we are starting right now and we're doing stuff every single day for the next 28 days in order to make sure that we're on class. That's why we have 3 drafts in front of this document, because it's subject to a little bit of change. But the thought process behind it is trying to get some input and opportunity, but knowing that we really need to have some feedback to our families, communicating with the board, to our staff between now and the end of the month, because people have to plan and we have to get ready, and some of the logistic details of coming back to school need to be implemented, and we want to make sure that we do that. So I guess I'll stop right there. I'll stop sharing this document and pause for questions.
Do you have anything planned for staff or students that have poor mobility?
Say that again, staff or students?
With poor mobility, in other words, more susceptible to the virus.
Yes. So the question was, I don't know if you heard it all, do we have a plan in place for staff or students who might be more susceptible to the virus? So we're definitely working with our nurses, and they have a list of, obviously confidential, of students who might be of high risk. And we will be creating provisions to try to provide a safe environment. Obviously, safety is our first and foremost model. We want to make sure that we're not putting kids at risk. That includes the PPE that we need. Some students might not be comfortable, or we might not be able to utilize a mask when they're not able to social distance, and so we'd have to wear a face mask, for example, or something to that extent. So definitely looking at those procedures. When we look at what Joyce will present in terms of the staff who might be at risk, there are some procedures that the district as an employer would have to provide employees, and we'll talk through a little bit of that as well. Any other comments on the timelines or just questions about what we're thinking about? Does it sound like that's a reasonable model for the board to be informed?
Mark, will that list of timelines, will that table be available either on Facebook or we can email the copy of that?
This isn't the only time that you're going to get this information, and it's possible that what Mark has presented could be subject to change by the 14th, because we know that the situation is changing on a regular basis. But what I just want to know, I want to make sure that the board is comfortable with the process that's taking place for developing a return to school plan and how the decision will ultimately be made. Are we okay with that at this point?
I'm
And again,
comfortable.
Catherine? Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any comments in that regard?
I like the fact that it's seeking a great deal of input, from staff as well as parents in the community. So I like the process.
I agree. I'm on board.
One item that I do want to share with you, just probably logistics, because we haven't done this before. So Monday, we're going to, after the board is okay with it, we're going to send out invitations to families to say, hey, just so you know, this opportunity will likely have 2 different times, one in the morning or early afternoon and one in the evening, to join a live stream so that they have the ability to give some feedback and hear the presentation. It is my understanding that if board members wish to join, you may, but if we have a quorum, we have to post it as a meeting. So I don't want to say you can't be involved, but if you are involved, you're seeing what's going on as the piece is happening, we would want to post it as. So my thinking would be is just post it, just in case there might be a quorum of board members. So if you see that on Monday, it doesn't mean that I expect you to attend. I just want you to know you can. And you could comment if you wish, knowing all along though that you're a board member, and I'm not sure when you get invited what your name will be. Like, do you know what I mean? When you go in a chat box, it might say C. Willis, or it might say Kathy at, or I don't know how those. So you just kind of be cautious about your role as a board member in this community forum, because it's possible that people understand that they're board members, they may try to stick the question to you. And in these communications, we're just taking input. We're not going to be able to answer the question, because if I'm hoping we're going to get a few hundred people at these meetings. I can't answer 200 people's questions, but I can take down what they're asking and then respond to them after, or at least give general scopes of what questions people are asking. So just wanted to do that from a logistics standpoint.
Sure. I would imagine it would lend itself to a good Q&A, based on input that you get from parents and staff.
That's the hope, right? That we're going to get lots of feedback, like, help me understand this, or, sometimes when you're working with it every single day, some things you forget because it's so normal in your conversation that we just want to make sure we're communicating from. Okay, so I think what I'd like to do next is go over to our return to school survey and share that information with all of you. I'm going to present one more time, and what I'm going to present is that survey, and you should have all these documents available to you in board book. So I just want to say thank you to Jason and Pam. They did a great job of putting this survey document together in a very short time frame. We ended the document, or the actual survey ended last night. So a couple of things to know. So we have 791 parents and 459 staff members who completed the survey.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt, but Dave, could you turn your mic off, because there's a lot of feedback, a lot of echo.
Is this better? Okay, I'll keep trying. The 791, just to kind of give you an idea, we sent out about 3,600. So when you think about our district has over 5,000 students, some of those families have multiple students, so we sent about 3,600. So again, we're close to 50% of the parents. And again, in the survey data, give you just an idea. We have 714 staff members we sent the email to. That's the general full-time population plus some part-time folks. So again, we're at 67% of our staff, which I felt like was another good indicator. So we asked some very simple questions, specifically about how comfortable they were with coming back face-to-face, how comfortable they were with the hybrid model, and how comfortable they were with distance learning. And just a couple of pieces that we'll probably have to be aware of is that, again, there isn't an overwhelming model, but 30% say that they're comfortable, say that they're, comfortable. 27 parents say I'm somewhat comfortable, and 15% say I'm not comfortable at all. When you look back at the numbers, when you're talking about parents, 15% is in the 250 individual range. So there's something to consider, but definitely I want to look at that. staff has a greater number of people, percentage, who are not comfortable coming back. Again, face to face, very comfortable. A little bit less than the community, but just to kind of give you some information. The hybrid model, again, we talk about sometimes in school, sometimes at home. We see again the comfort level with this is less than comfort level with this at face to face with both groups. We see that the I'm not at all comfortable with this is greater with parents and less with staff. When we look at the I am comfortable with this, pretty similar between parents and staff, and not too much different with me. I'm somewhat comfortable. And just opportunities for us to take feedback. This isn't anything that we can say is scientific, but definitely great feedback. The distance model, I think what this parents are telling us that almost 60% of folks say, no, thank you. We did have one, we're not happy with that. When we look at I'm somewhat comfortable, 20%, and I'm very comfortable, that number is a little bit smaller as well. So if we were to rank what our community members and parents said, even though this is overwhelming, it looks like face-to-face, hybrid, and then distance learning. When we talk about our top priorities, we ask the question, what are our top priorities coming back? The blue indicates their number one meeting in 5 places. This is in top priority. Academic progress of children and staff and student safety are our top. And social interactions, supporting others, co-curricular development, things fall into the range, but obviously these two are far apart. When we asked staff some concerns, they talked about a little bit about the enforcement of staff or students not following the implemented health protocols, their unknown job duties, cleaning and disinfecting, and having in-person interaction with students, health condition, and family members. We ask about their interest in wearing masks. This is, again, requires staff to wear masks. 50-50 for the parents. The staff says yes. 2/3 say staff should require a mask. When we require students to wear a mask, it's a little bit less. 60-40 with this, and 62-40. So not too much different with students and staff. The other question we asked is if district creates a model involves face-to-face instruction, would you want yourself to have distance learning? And in this case, 17% said that they would. So it definitely is something we want to keep in consideration. So I'm going to stop sharing right now and go back and see if there's any questions or comments that board members have on the survey data.
Any questions on the survey information that Mark presented to us?
So Mark, it looks like 17% of parents would be for staying with district or distance learning. So you say that's about 250 students?
Well, yeah, I mean, 10% of the people who filled out the survey, which is maybe half of our parents. So if that equaled out larger, right, if we double that, according to this, it was 16% of our population, right? If you look at the last one, 16%. If we look at its actual numbers pulled out for all, 16% is closer to 300 kids.
Okay, so is it realistic to try to set up a distance learning for those families that want to stay with distance learning, and those that want to come back into the school, they would have that opportunity as well?
My grandchildren have
Hang on,
that.
I'm hearing from two people at once.
One second.
First, Lisa's on. Hang on, Catherine. Lisa's speaking right now.
Okay.
Okay, Lisa, go ahead.
So the families that want to stay with distance learning and are not comfortable to come back into the school, is it feasible that we could set up a distance learning, virtual learning plan for those students, and the other students that want to come back into the school, we could arrange to have the face-to-face? Is that a feasible model to try to put together for this upcoming school year?
We definitely are going to take into consideration the families who aren't comfortable coming back and do everything we can to provide a model that would have a virtual learning model. It might not look exactly like what we had in March, April, or May, but we definitely will want to work with those, 300 kids. We're not going to just say, no, thank you. What I would say is some of that also depends on, our return depends on health organizations and others. So I don't want to pretend like I get to make all the decisions. What we have to say is that some of our folks, even though right now our interest is come back to school, we have health officials that are going to have to help us. So I don't want to say that absolutely we're coming back face to face and have this other model. I'm not the one who ultimately the health procedures in Manitowoc could change, and the health department says you're not coming back on September 1st face to face. Then I have to have all that makes sense, or a hybrid, something else. But we are going to do everything we can to take care of all students in the Manitowoc School District. This helps us understand: are we talking about 50 kids or 300 kids? And it sounds like we're talking about more than 50 kids. So we need to create a model that addresses that.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments from board members? Catherine, did you want to speak to the presentation?
Yes, the distance learning was only as good as the parent involvement. And that was a problem with it. I know my grandkids, we would ask them, did you do your homework? Well, no, not yet. Well, then you have to get out of the pool and go back in and do it. So parents aren't taking the time to ask those questions or ask to look at what the children were doing on their homework. It's not going to work. So really, in-person learning is the best option.
We did hear that 58.5% of the parents said that I am not at all comfortable with returning to school in a completely different learning model. And I think if we would ask that question without having spent March, April, and May online, we might have had different. I think maybe at first we thought it might be okay, but now we're realizing how difficult that is.
Right.
Okay, the last section I'd like to turn over to Joyce Greenwood Arts, and I'd ask her to kind of walk the board through the safe reopening to central office, just some general guidelines. You kind of put together a one-page document, and then followed by some other information about all of our staff. So, Joyce, I'm going to share my screen, but I'm going to allow you to take the lead here in this communication.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I just want to share with our board members the process that we have gone through to develop a plan to safely reopen central office and safely return employees to central office. So What you have in front of you is a one-page summary. The actual plan with all the detail is 3 or 4 pages long. But again, I just want to give you an idea of kind of the process and what it's going to look like. So, you know, first and foremost, you know, we absolutely, in our plan, imperative that when we do reopen, that we do it safely. Certainly, you know, we want we want to ensure the health and well-being of our employees or the community that's coming in or general public that's coming into this building. So, barring just a couple of things, barring any unforeseen circumstances, the staff that work in central office would return on Thursday, July 23rd. And then the building itself would reopen to the public the following Monday, the 27th. Again, there was some rationale that, you know, we felt certainly at some point we need to reopen central office. You know, most of the folks and departments in this building are ancillary departments that support all primary operations of the district. Certainly central office serves and supports the community. And then of course, because we are so heavy in supporting the functions of the district, you know, we need to ensure that we are prepared for the start of the school year, whatever that looks like. In this process, we talked about keys to effectiveness. You know, what do we need to do this well and to do it right? So, you know, I don't need to read those to you, but I do just, you know, as far as the process, we probably started this about 6 weeks ago. And our planning team consisted of myself, Superintendent Holzman, Chris Dupre, and then our nurse. And, you know, we met often, again, crafted, drafted, put together a plan to make sure that we could reopen this building safely and keep our employees safe. We certainly kept the director team in the loop and got feedback from our directors. And then really I guess the last step in the process was last week. We presented our plan to reopen central office to the central office as a safety team. So we shared it with 4 or 5 other people and did a virtual meet. So again, that's just a little bit about the rationale, keys to effectiveness, and the process. And the plan itself, again, the plan itself is 3 to 4 pages long, much more detailed, but we broke the plan down into the different categories or the different areas that you see below. So employee hygiene, you know, we are going to, whether it's signage, communicate, train, that's all about hand washing and just personal hygiene. Under the employee health and wellness, you know, all employees in this building have to fill out a health questionnaire. Physical distancing, we talk about. In the plan, we talk about when it's required for staff in this building, when it's going to be required to wear masks, because there will be requirements to wear masks for staff in this building. And then it's really our district policy, not just central office, but staff are required to remain home if they are symptomatic or test positive. So lots of parts and pieces under the employee health and wellness. Again, lots more detail in the actual plan. The next category, as I call it, that we looked at were any physical modifications. We're going to have lots of signage. We will have numerous hand sanitizer, wall mounted and some on stands throughout the building. We actually are not going to allow staff to use the staff break room at all because, again, people tend to congregate. There's lots of high-touch surfaces in there with microwaves, that type of thing. So to start, we are going to close down the staff break room. We are doing many, many things in our front reception area as far as health and safety protocols. So again, that was all under the category of physical modifications. Chris Dupre and has put together enhanced protocols for cleaning and disinfecting in this building. One of the things prior to COVID, prior to now, a custodian came to this building 3 times a week. We will have a custodian in this building 5 days a week, several hours in the evening. And again, with some enhanced cleaning and disinfecting protocols that she will be trained in. So that was a big part of the plan. Lots of discussion, lots of detail on visitors to central office. Any visitor that needs to go past the front reception area into the main part of the building will have their temperature taken and need to fill out a health questionnaire, as well as if they don't have a mask, they'll be given a mask. And there's other things about visitors. And then meetings, just the section in the plan about meetings. We will absolutely continue to do virtual meetings whenever possible and practical. There may be some times where we would meet in person, but first and foremost, any meeting or form of business that needs to be done, the first option is if you can do it virtual, continue to do virtual meetings. So again, that's a kind of a high level summary, but I wanted to share with the board, again, what it looks like. Absolutely our nursing team was very, very critical in this plan. The health department's been involved. Again, we absolutely wanted to ensure that we are following, that our protocols for reopening central office align with the health department, CDC recommendations. So again, our nursing team was very, very much involved in this plan and in making decisions on what protocols to put in place. So the idea, like I said, the director team has seen it. Our central office safety team has seen this. The plan is to communicate to all central office staff early next week. So there will be a written communication. One of our nurses is also putting together like a 3-minute video, again, about the safe return. And I know Mark is going to take care of next week as well, middle or end of next week, making sure our community knows that central office is going to reopen as of the 27th. Again, staff will come back the 23rd. So, any questions, comments, feedback? Anything I can answer for you?
The only comment I have is when I look at and listen to all the planning, that went into opening central office.
I know.
I can't believe how difficult and how involved it's going to be to open all of our schools to kids. It just sometimes seems overwhelming.
Yeah, it's we got this. We will do it. We will do it well. I've said it often, Dick, exactly what you've said. I had a great group that worked on this, but we met at least weekly, sometimes more often, for the last 6 weeks to put this 4-page plan together with all the detail. It's it's good. But this will be a good test, but your point is well taken, Dick. So
You mentioned that visitors will be given masks if they don't have one. Are you going to be enforcing that in order to move beyond the front desk, they have to wear a mask?
yes.
Good.
And there will be signage. We've got unique we've got some general signage throughout the building on hand washing and signs and symptoms of COVID-19. But there's definitely some unique signage up front about visitors coming in. Quite honestly, visitors to this building also include an MPSD employee who works in another building. So if a principal needs to come here to central office, they're coming through the front entrance. If they need to go meet with Mark, meet with Mr. Bull, if they're going past, even if it's one of our own employees that works in a different building, they're getting their temperature taken and doing a 6-question survey. So now, eventually, like every business out there, whether it's in, I don't know, could be in 6 months, could be in 9 months, could be in 3 months, based on the health department, the community spread, transmission. We hope to at some point loosen some of these, but we're not there. So we did get masks. We ordered, they're in. We got masks for all of our employees. Now they can choose to wear their own mask, but again, because certainly we know here in central office, don't know what the school buildings are going to look like yet, but we are requiring masks in many situations here in central office, just masks for all employees. Now, again, like I said, they can choose to wear their own, but we felt it was the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We do anticipate families to register for school,
Yeah.
and that's what we anticipate happening at the central office
Yes.
desk in the summer. That's a typical model where we enroll a lot of new families.
Mhm.
COVID has reduced the number of families, I think, transitioning from one community to another. We've been doing that as much as we can online and virtually right now, but we do need to get back to allowing new families to come to central office to register their kids for school in the fall. So we have a number of those protocols that Joyce talked about in place. There's already plexiglass. It's the hand sanitizers in the buildings. See a new spot here in central in the boardroom. So we're moving forward. Joyce, if you would take us through briefly just the documents so that they know what's going on, and then we can move forward.
Okay. All right. So thank you. The other document I shared with you, and you'll be happy to know I'm not going to walk through all 9 pages of this document, but I do just want to kind of give you the background of what this document is all about. So certainly as a district and in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, we needed to develop, what I call some operational protocols as it relates to our employees in 2 different areas. And one is the health protocols, meaning basically, how are we going to respond? What are we going to do for employees who have symptoms, test positive, come in close contact with somebody who tests positive? Okay, so that's the one piece of this document. So our protocols, what are we going to do when that happens with our employees? We hope it doesn't, but chances are it may. And then on top of that, if an employee is symptomatic, test positive, etc., what are those work considerations and payment during that time that they might not be able to be physically at work. The other thing, and again, you certainly can read the whole 9 pages, but I can tell you that probably started working on this maybe about a month ago, because we have to have this ready. We have to have this in place as our staff start to return, including central office in a week and a half. But I can tell you that this document has been, I have worked with nursing staff many, many, many times who is communicating with the health department, making sure all the health protocol piece of this aligns with CDC recommendations, health department, so the nursing team's been very involved in that piece. The other piece, the what I call the work considerations, like now what happens if I can't come to work? A lot of that falls under more legal, there's the new Family First Coronavirus Response Act. Don't expect you to understand it or even be interested in, but there's different laws that we have to look at. So I've probably had, and Mark was involved in many of those phone conversations. I've had numerous conversations with our attorney to make sure that these, that anything in this document aligns with and follows any legal, state or federal laws, including this new, again, Family First Coronavirus Response Act.
Mhm.
In fact, I think we had hopefully our last conversation. I had one more thing to ask our attorney this morning about the document. But so again, just please know that this has been looked at many, many, many times by not only our nursing staff for the health piece, but our attorneys for the legal piece. And as of now, the only staff that have seen this is our director team. We wanted to share it with the board, so you know. And then myself or Mark and I, we need to determine, we have to share this out to our employees so that they know that this is the document that will guide our operational protocols that we've adopted due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So, yeah. And I would guess we will share this fairly soon. Again, like for example, because our central office staff are coming back, 2 weeks, we need to get this out, but we need to get this out to all of our staff. So questions, comments?
Yeah, I do, Joyce. It's I did read through the entire document, and it's number 7. It's raised some red flags for me, and that has to do with teachers that are not comfortable in coming back. And the statement, the last line says, if after 2 weeks the employee still refuses to return to work, the district may deem the refusal as a voluntary resignation. When we looked at the surveys, there were 24% of our teachers that don't feel comfortable in coming back. I'm wondering, are there timelines involved with this, and how would this potentially impact, personnel, in regards to implementing this?
If I had to, thank you, Dick. Yeah, probably number 7. I don't know. Again, we working through all these different situations. And again, this is for all. Just so I want to clarify, and I think you understand this, Dick. But I know you said teachers. These protocols apply to all 700 employees. This really would only apply to a situation where somebody just doesn't want to come back to work. There's no medical reason. There's no childcare reason. There's no disability. There's no, there's like they just I don't know, like, and I'm not so sure that we're gonna run into this. Again, this is just someone who just says, I don't want to come back to work because there's a pandemic. I'm perfectly healthy. My family's perfectly healthy. There's nothing wrong. I just don't feel comfortable, Now, we will absolutely engage I would actually, engage in a dialogue with that employee and walk through that's why we put these protocols in place to keep people safe. Talk about what they're most concerned about. How can we help you? How can we make you feel more comfortable coming back to work?
Mhm.
Is there any accommodation we can make, help you with? So we absolutely would engage in that dialogue to try to help that employee feel comfortable coming back. Again, I hope this stuff, we don't want this to happen, but
Yeah.
there could be a situation where the employee just says, I'm not coming back. Again, just no health reason, no childcare reason, no nothing. They're just like, I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
And at least it gives again, it says may. So it leaves us some options, but if somebody just is out saying, I'm not coming back.
Right.
And doesn't meet any of I know. So typically if somebody, we do have some staff, like you say, that aren't comfortable. And I think some of that is their own personal health conditions or high risk. And many of them are going to be covered under FMLA. They might have that's completely different.
Right.
And I think that those types of things, high risk, health condition, child, folks are not going to lose their jobs for things like that. They are covered. They're covered under the law in most cases. So again, number 7 is just someone that just says, I'm not coming back. And again, we'll talk to them, we'll reassure, so I hope that's not, we don't want that to happen, but it needs to be in here. We felt it needed to be in here.
Right. Absolutely. And it's possible that somebody could say it's just not worth the risk to me.
Right.
Yeah. And my thought is, should number 7 have some kind of a timeline so that on the first day of school, all of a sudden you're not scrambling because there might be 5 people, that decide, it's not worth it.
Yeah, I'm hoping, I don't know what this looks like, Dick, and I don't recall because I've been thinking about this, and I don't even recall if Mark and I talked about it, but I would guess once we get closer to the reopening, whatever that looks like. Now, again, if we end up starting the year all virtual, most of this isn't going to apply. But if we are back, if we're back in buildings in some way, shape, or form, and, we get to the point where, here's our plan, here's our model, here's all the protocols, and that is, shared and communicated with all employees by, whatever the timeline is, end of early August, I'm going to start hearing, principals and I are going to start hearing from employees then that are, wait a minute, I need to talk to somebody. So we want to be on the flip, or I want to certainly be proactive to know about those situations before, August 30th, 2 days before school starts. So, but I think once people know what our plan is, what our model's going to be, and if it involves being back in buildings with kids, we're going to start hearing from employees. They're going to be, I'm hoping that we want them to be proactive and try to work something out before the start of school, whatever that is.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have 2 other quick questions. One is, is Neola, if I'm pronouncing that correct, is Neola providing any resources for schools? I know that we contract with them. And then the second question is, if it's employment policies, my thought is that it would require board action. If it's operation protocols, it probably would not. So it's the cover says employment policy / protocols, and you discussed it as operational protocols. So
Yeah, so first question, Neola, they have not, up until now, they have not come up with this type of document,
okay.
For districts, not just us. And to your second point, that's a great question. Your second point, and you're right, I probably should change the title. In Mark and my conversation with the attorney, his recommendation, these are operational protocols. I need to take out the word policy. Thank you. These are our operational protocols that the district has adopted in response to the pandemic. And again, they align with the state and federal laws that we have to follow. So I don't want to say it's black and white because it's still complicated, and all the health protocols and recommendations and guidelines. So, but that is a good point. I should probably take policies out of the title. So, but again, his recommendation was this would not, doesn't mean we can't, but because they are our operational protocols or guidelines in response to the pandemic, that they don't require board approval.
Right. Okay.
Again, we could, but they don't require it. So, but we absolutely want our board to know that, that we've got this document that we will use as our guide. Absolutely. As you can tell, there's numerous scenarios and what happens under each one, and all of them are just a little different.
Right.
So, thank you. Thanks, Dick.
Joyce, I
Bless
appreciate all the work that you went into putting this together. I do want to add one thought, though, because I, too, when I read it, had the same thoughts as Dick, as far as it alarmed me somewhat. So I think some of our personnel may see that as a negative comment at the very end. And it sounds really silly, but can something be added at the end that seems more positive or reassuring? Because that's literally the last bullet point. And I just think, well, that's kind of not a great ending. So I was just a suggestion.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
Yeah.
Dick, bless your heart for reading the whole thing, or any of you that read the whole thing. Thank you. But I will relook at that. I'll see if I can get some maybe a little softer language, from our attorney that would still, again, the intent is not, for anyone to need to resign or volunteer, but
right.
To protect the district, we have to have some language, but I will absolutely, that's a good point. I will absolutely look at it. Thanks, Kathy.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think that's a nice touch, Kathy, but we need to make sure we don't soften it, to the point where teachers do not have a clear message in regard to, it's if they decide not to come back, it's that these are potential circumstances.
Agreed. But it could be something just on the very bottom that says we appreciate your cooperation with the new protocols being put in place because of COVID. It could be something that simple.
Yeah, got it.
I know that was rather lengthy, but any other questions? Or certainly, you're welcome to reach out to Mark or myself if you have, if you have more time or need more time to look through it. But I'm guessing we will, in the next week to 3 weeks, in some way, shape, or form, we will need to get this out to our employees. So again, we wanted the board to be aware that it's out. And again, as a district, we needed to put this together, in response to the pandemic and, these protocols for our employees. So.
Okay, Joyce, thank you for the lengthy brief. I believe that's it. Mark, we don't have anything else, right? We went through all that. Okay.
I don't have anything else prepared unless there's questions.
Okay. Unfinished business.
Mr. Nichols,
Yes.
I
yes,
am going to take that as a compliment.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Thank you.
You did a very thorough job, and that's necessary, particularly when there will be a lot of questions in regard to
There will
the
be.
information that you
Yeah.
provide. So thanks.
Here, I've given you grief. Thanks.
Good. Unfinished business, well, we would have unfinished business that will carry forward to our next meeting in regard to the school reopening and the all of the reopening issues that we have in front of us. New business, we have our from our Finance and Budget Committee, we approved the bus contract with Brand Buses. And so that's already a motion and a second. So I would open it up for discussion if anyone has any questions. Again, just so you're aware, that's just a moving that's typically a 5-year contract. We're moving it ahead another year with some modifications to it. We normally do that. It's modified based on the needs of the district and the needs of the transportation company. There may be some changes that occur during the year as a result of how we reopen school. But this is something that the Finance Committee approved and seconded. So if there's no further discussion,
I do have a question for you.
Yes.
I guess I'm just wondering, in light of the fact that everything we're discussing has to do with COVID, do we need to put some sort of like addendum into this contract, taking COVID into consideration? Like, will our bus drivers have to wear a mask, or is that a completely separate thing?
Well,
I understand this is finance and logistics, but what are we requiring Brant Bus to do as far as COVID?
Well, first, I mean, just to let you know, there are limitations to what we can require Brant to do. We're contracting them.
Right.
It doesn't mean that we can set all the restrictions that we might have. So maybe Mark has a little bit. I mean, Sean may have a little more information on that. He is the one who discusses the contract with them. That's certainly a consideration, and we're understanding that there may be some changes that occur during the year as a result of additional transportation, for example.
Sure. I guess during our conversation, Sean and myself and Steve Reckley, who was the owner / chair of the Brant Bus Company, talked a little bit about what protocols will be put in place or may need to be put in place in regards to transportation. And he has some sanitation and equipment that would be utilized in order to try to provide that. I think the challenge will be what kind of mode do we bring back? And the CDC and health departments recommendations are most strict in transportation. That is the areas of which we have a lot of work to do in terms of just working through a process that would allow us to have 6-foot distancing, masks, and sanitation. Our current model packs as many kids as we can in a legal manner into the bus. We pick up and use that same bus to transport 2 or 3 different times in the same morning and the same afternoon without wiping it down. So those things, I mean, we already acknowledge that that's going to change. And when I would tell you that our relationship with the bus company right now is that as much as they need us, we need them.
Yeah.
They're the bus company. We don't have others in Manitowoc that we could even bounce an idea off of to change. So they're right on board with us. I would anticipate that what we make recommendations, they will follow.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Otherwise, I would ask all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Any other business, anything else anybody wanted to bring up while we're here?
Can I just make one quick comment?
Yes.
When we were talking about virtual school versus face-to-face, I think I was going to make a comment, but I was muted, and then Catherine had an opportunity. So I did want to just share my feelings that I think that we should be looking at a combination of face-to-face and virtual learning. Number one, because 17% of the parents do not feel comfortable in having their kids in school. I would hate to lose some of those parents to other open enrollment distant learning alternatives. And I think there's a possibility, that could happen. There's too many other distant learning opportunities available. That, and I think we need to have something in place so that if we do have kids that are showing symptoms or are tested positive, for COVID-19, that we have alternatives in place and already running that they can just fit right back into if they need to be quarantined for an extended period of time. So just my thoughts on that. Sorry, it's out of order.
Well, no, actually, it's in order. That's the place to bring it up. Thank you. Otherwise, our next meeting will be next Tuesday, July 14th at 7 o'clock. The return to school issue will be on the agenda as well as some other items. But are there any committee meetings prior to July 14th? I know there's nothing for finance. Anybody else have a meeting scheduled before July 14th? Otherwise, I would ask for a motion to adjourn and a second.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, all.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody. So much work. Dave, go off.